Good afternoon, everyone. What an incredible day. When I think about all of the presentations that I've heard in the last day, I hear themes of security, privacy, fairness, and a lot with cyber resilience. So I'm here before you today. My name is Emily, and I work for Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada as an analyst for the Policy Analysis and Intelligence Branch with an Atlantic Regional Office. Before I begin, for a bit of context on the role of the regional offices, we are based in Halifax, but we have officers all across the 4 provinces. I myself am located in St. John, and my colleague Danica Carlton here is, she resides in the beautiful city of Fredericton, and I don't just say that because of the circumstances of the day. We serve as the eyes and the ears for New Brunswickers, and we regularly connect with the headquarters counterparts, working with stakeholders and feeding intel into Ottawa. Our regional office works on all files under the ISED portfolio. This includes oceans, tourism, life sciences, skills development. We also support ministers and senior officials when they visit. One of our key files that has seen exponential growth of interest in the last number of years, in part largely due to the pandemic as well as remote work, is digital adoption and cybersecurity, which is why I'm here today. ISED has a number of programs focused on digitization, as well as fostering the development and retention of skills and talent to support our economy and our workforce. Some such programs include our Universal Broadband Fund, the Digital Skills for Youth, CanCode, and the recent launch of the Canada Digital Adoption Program. Today, we are here to discuss ISED's CyberSecure Canada Certification Program and its complementary e-learning series. I'll be walking through our program overview, the certification process, opportunities for collaboration, and I'll have some time to answer any outstanding questions after the presentation. The government has a suite of resources and tools dedicated to educate and inform about cybersecurity. The CyberSecure Canada program, or CSC for short, aims to raise the cybersecurity baseline among small businesses, increase consumer confidence in the digital economy, as well as promote international standardization. CSC is a voluntary cybersecurity certification program that was designed for small and medium-sized organizations in mind. Why SMOs? Because they make up the bulk of our economy. They house valuable information. SMOs value chain with larger organizations provide hackers with access or backdoor access to their entire supply chain. That often includes the larger targets within it as well. So to be extra clear here, when I do say SMOs, I'm referring to the Statistics Canada definition, which is any organization with under 500 employees. CSC was designed to help improve the cybersecurity baseline for the Canadian SMOs, and it works to raise awareness around cybersecurity overall. So in order to become a certified company, you must implement the 13 security control areas. These controls were developed by the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, and they're considered the industry best practice. As I'm sure you're aware, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity is here among us today. They were founded in 2010, and they collaborate with Shared Services and the Treasury Board of Canada to offer the enabler for a secure digital Canada. No, they did not pay me to add this to my presentation, and yes, they are one of our program partners. Back to the 13 controls. So they're a mix of technically based controls like backing up and encrypting data, as well as securing your websites. There are also policy-based controls, providing employee awareness training or developing an incident response plan. Once a company has implemented the controls to reduce their cyber risk, they will undergo a light touch audit through which we call a certification body or CB to ensure the controls are teaching and serving their intended purpose. Once a company has completed and passed their audit, they will be issued a certification mark. You can see that on the upper right corner. This mark signifies to your partners and associates that you have taken the actions to be on cybersecurity to meet a national recognized standard. So why it is no secret that the frequency of cyber incidents is increasing more and more, and we're seeing them, SMOs are increasingly targeted. 98% of Canadian enterprises are SMOs, and they employ up 16 million of our workers, contributing around 50% to Canada's GDP. SMOs are known to be less equipped to handle an attack if it comes, with 47% of smaller businesses reporting having no budget allocation towards cybersecurity risk mitigation. So this percentage represents a huge economic driver that we must support. Not to mention, cyber attacks have increased dramatically. From the onset of the pandemic, cyber attacks have increased more than 300% globally, and where 25% of small businesses report suffering from a cyber attack. We know the costs can be devastating for small businesses. To drive this home even further, the Insurance Bureau of Canada has found that 60% of SMOs are forced to close the doors within 6 months of a cyber attack. Even given the ever-evolving nature of the digital economy, cybersecurity is not a one-and-done situation. It's an evergreen practice that must continuously be maintained and monitored to build the defenses. So cyber attacks have both direct and indirect impacts. The big thing here is that the top trend that we are monitoring is that cybersecurity and cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated in their practices. The pandemic is known as the great accelerator for a number of reasons. Many small businesses have adopted digital processes and have moved their brick and mortar traditional processes online. Consequently, digital technology is accelerating and it's becoming a must-have. One unfortunate consequence: increased cybercrime. Cyber attacks are no longer as simple as they were even 10 years ago. We're all susceptible to have those phishing emails which we've received in our inbox. And over the pandemic, there have been a greater increase in business email compromise and ransomware, as we've learned today through several of the presentations. So our program goals for CyberSecure Canada are to improve the cybersecurity baseline. We're targeting the SMOs that don't know where to begin, so that they have a series of steps that are obtainable so that they can look at the end process and say, that's where we want to be. Second is to raise awareness and education for the Canadians, on cybersecurity. We're accomplishing this through advertising campaigns, as well as those e-learning series modules. And finally, we want to be that trusted brand. Like Energy Star, individuals can feel more confident when they see our certification mark on their business websites. It is also cost-effective, priced with the SMOs in mind, and it has low implementation burden. And the implementation processes are fairly easy, and it can be implemented by non-technical specialists. Let me take a moment to explain our program governance model. So ISED works in collaboration with 2 other partners, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which are our subject matter experts, and the Standards Council of Canada, which oversee the accreditation of the certification bodies. They are our program auditors. So here, I have spent a lot of time so far speaking to the security controls. I'll give a practical example of what these controls are. So if you look at the very first one stated, develop an incident response plan, this is where you would go to answer the questions of who in your organization is responsible in the event of a cyber incident. How are you going to notify your customers and vendors that an attack happened? Or for another example, how will you restore the system and the data that was breached? Looking in the second row, use strong user authentication. This offers a walkthrough of how to enable multi-factor authentication. And finally, I'll just point out one more, the provide employee awareness training programs. These are employee training programs. We've discussed already today that human error is perhaps the largest reason for a security breach. And so this offers a way to onboard your employees to be aware of what might be a risk. So our certification process, if you're interested in becoming certified, I will show you sort of walkthrough of what an organization is going to go through to reach that certification and what you should expect. So we start by preparing to implement the security controls. The way to prepare is to complete the e-learning series. If the organization needs more tailored or specialized help, you can also reach an IT consultant if you need to. Our second step, to implement security controls. This is where the bulk of the work really takes place. So you will work with the IT provider and across your organization to develop these policies and internal processes to meet the auditor criteria. This includes the incident response plan, password policies, securing your portable media, and more. Once this is complete, you will select your certified body. The CBs are independent third-party organizations that have been accredited by the Standards Council of Canada. Once a company has completed and passed their audit, they will be issued that certification watermark that I'd mentioned earlier, and this mark is valid for 2 years. Next, you will submit the auditor request application on our portal. You will be prompted with a 7-question survey. This indicates your current state for cybersecurity controls. You'll be asked questions like, do you have a cybersecurity certification? And this is just to give the CBs an understanding of where your current cyber posture level is and how much time the audit might take. At this point, all contact takes place outside of our system, and you'll be engaging directly with the CB that you've selected. They will be asking you to provide the necessary documentations, supporting materials to prove that you have implemented each control. So you'll be submitting the copy of the incident response plan and the password policies. These are our current accredited certification bodies. This is an evergreen list, as any company interested in becoming a certification body may be accredited by the Standards Council of Canada. And this is the only cybersecurity certification developed and approved by the Government of Canada. Once you receive this mark, it signals that your organization takes cybersecurity seriously and has met the standards approved by the Standards Council. And at $2,000 to $5,000 for the average cost for an enterprise-wide audit, similar certifications for small to medium-sized organizations, they can be over $20,000 with annual renewals. So just to note that. And again, earlier in the day, Dr. Benoit Dupont, when you were speaking you actually did highlight our program. So thank you so much for this. And you were speaking about how to make these sorts of programs more approachable for SMOs. They're still too complicated. And that's why we have added an addition to the actual certification process, which are our e-learning modules. So CyberSecure Canada has a suite of free online series available to any companies or individuals. Everyone here can go home and look at these modules and series and take them in your own time. I'll just walk through a few of them. So the modules were developed with the goal of increasing the awareness and education levels related to cybersecurity. Each of the 14 modules take about 20 to 60 minutes to complete, and they can be completed standalone, or you can complete them as a series. You can also pause during your session and come back and it will all stay there. So you don't need to block off the time to complete them from the beginning to the very end. And each module also corresponds to one of the 13 controls for the certification program. Plus, there is one introductory model as well. So they provide an overview of the corresponding controls. They explain what they are, why it's important, and how it can be implemented in your business practically. They contain also real life cases that you will come up. There's short quizzes that test your knowledge, and there are additional resources to support small businesses. For example, the modules have a template for an incident response plan. And this template you can download, and individuals and businesses can tangibly apply them to their organizations. Other templates that you can reach are training plans for employees and a digital asset catalog. These modules are really a fantastic way for any company or any individual to get a sense of what is needed to become more cybersecure. Not to mention, they provide a great overview of what the control, what each control entails and what it is required to be compliant. So they're a really great resource for all companies, and they're free, so relatively quick to complete as well. So the CyberSecure Canada's national standard was obtained in November 2021. The standard incorporates baseline controls and it delineates security controls into 2 levels. Level 1 requirements are intended for smaller organizations that are just starting their cybersecurity journey. So they may not have the ability to invest in IT resources and capacity for building up their cybersecurity. This would be sort of an entry-level way into understanding where they stand, where your cyber posture is. The second level is intended to build from the first. So it's intended for any organization that's seeking to mature more and scale up and increase their cyber posture. And we also have opportunities to collaborate. As we break into the digital era, small to medium-sized organizations will turn to you for guidance. Please point them to our program. And here is a list of some of the ISED initiatives that support digitization and cybersecurity. I will pass the stage over to my colleague, Hamza, who will speak to Cybersecurity Innovation Network Program. Thank you, everyone. I will also just mention that we do have a few of these at the front desk. If you're interested in learning more, you can have them over there. Thanks.
Thanks, Emily. And just like to take a moment to thank the organizers and Ali for inviting us here and providing us an opportunity to speak about the Cybersecurity Innovation Network Program, or the CSIN program from ISED. So my goal today is to provide information about the CSIN program for those of you who are unaware about the program. For those of you who already know about the program, I'd like to provide an update on the implementation of the program. So I'll quickly be going through the cybersecurity landscape in Canada, followed by the current state of the cybersecurity ecosystem. I will then talk about the objectives of the CSIN program, and then talk about the selected lead recipient, and finally end with a roadmap of what's next over the next couple of years, and close off with questions and answers. So some of these statistics were already spoken about today, but I'll quickly go through a snapshot of the industry, which is pre-pandemic 2018-2019 data, with more updated data available further this year, at the end of this year. On this slide, you can see the Canadian cybersecurity industry contributed over 2.3 billion in GDP and over 22,500 jobs to the Canadian economy. If we drill down further, the industry and its value chain contributed 1.7 billion in GDP and 16,750 jobs to the Canadian economy. Globally, the governments are also increasing spending, with projections showing 1.75 trillion will be spent between 2021 and 2025. As we know, this is not surprising, as cybercrime is estimated to have caused about $6 trillion in damage in 2021. It was already mentioned today, but on the job side, it was recently reported that Canada has about 25,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs, with that number globally reaching about 3 to 3.5 million. In terms of employment breakdown, the STEM field captured over 60% of the industry's total employment in 2018. What we'd like to highlight here is the gender gap in various functions. Although the percentage of women in cybersecurity workforce has increased over the past 10 years, there's still a clear gap. In North America, it's estimated that women fill only about 20 to 25% of cybersecurity jobs. An ISC Squared report found that women in cybersecurity are generally better educated compared to men, and organizations can benefit from the recruitment of highly qualified women as well as underrepresented groups to help close the talent gap that exists. Of the approximately 350 firms in Canada in 2018, 281 had less than 100 employees. So that's close to about 90% of the industry having less than 250 employees, with on average, firms having about 31 employees. In contrast to most industries, firms with less than 250 employees captured more than 45% of industry employment and R&D activity, while being responsible for more than 35% of the industry's exports. The industry was also globally engaged, with about 1.1 billion coming from exports. And over here, this slide presents the industry across the country with regional specializations, which include infrastructure solutions, encryption, compliance audits, etc. The majority of the industry breakdown by employment share can be seen in Ontario by 52%, followed by Western Canada at 24%, Quebec at 19%, and Atlantic Canada at 5%. These regions here exhibited different capabilities and drivers. So Ontario, significant for being the finance and tech hub for cybersecurity with a lot of government demand. Quebec, we saw strong academic institutions and public-private investments in AI and deep learning. Out west, we saw provincial funding for startups in close proximity to US tech cities. And in Atlantic Canada, we saw strong provincial engagement and strong academic institutions. So now that I've spoken about some of the statistics about the industry, I'm going to elaborate on what this means for the current state of the ecosystem. So as you all know, it's not a surprise, demand for cybersecurity talent outweighs Canada's ability to produce and attract a skilled workforce. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of digital technologies and digital transformations, which led to an unprecedented increase in the demand for talent. Employers and industry organizations alone are unable to address the challenge of securing a talent pipeline that can address the country's industry, academic, and other cybersecurity needs. As digital tech continues to become central to our way of life, trust will be a key factor in empowering Canadians and businesses to achieve their full and innovative and economic potential. Emilie spoke briefly about SMEs or SMOs. So Canadian small and medium enterprises are the backbone of our economy and contribute about 50% to our GDP, with many lacking cybersecurity practices and basic knowledge to protect themselves. 25% of SMEs have experienced a cyber attack since March 2020, and 5% of these attacks were successful. Cybercrime remains the most common threat faced by Canadians and Canadian organizations, especially regarding ransomware and phishing. And we heard earlier in Benoit's and Rajiv's presentation about ransomware. Canada also ranks among the top countries impacted by ransomware. Over the past 2 years, ransomware campaigns have impacted a record number of Canadian businesses and critical infrastructure providers. As we go into the ecosystem is pretty research focused and does not necessarily support commercialization, which reinforces the need for stakeholders to work together to leverage and maximize resources in order to grow and be able to compete in the global marketplace. Ultimately, what we saw is Canada lacks the cybersecurity talent and tools to address the threats we're facing. There's significant economic benefits to be had by supporting Canada's cybersecurity research and industry. That's why the government felt that the country would benefit from a national network that would work across the country in partnerships with industry and academia to leverage localized areas of expertise, to build and share strengths across these smaller areas of expertise in cybersecurity, and encourage the growth of a cohesive ecosystem that emphasizes cross-sectoral partnerships, collaboration, and information sharing. And this brings me to ISED's Cybersecurity Innovation Network program. The CSIN program was launched with a vision to support a national network to grow Canada's cybersecurity ecosystem through academic industry collaboration, and a mission to represent the diversity of Canada's cybersecurity ecosystem to enhance and expand the cybersecurity research and development, increase commercialization, and develop a pipeline of skilled cybersecurity talent. In partnership with academia and industry, the development of a national ecosystem will leverage Canada's highly skilled workforce, world-class universities, and growing cybersecurity industry to position us as a global leader in cybersecurity innovation and development. The network will have three main objectives, including supporting research and development in cybersecurity by encouraging collaboration between Canadian PSIs, the private sector, and other partners, accelerating the commercialization of cybersecurity products and services that enter the marketplace, and finally, diversifying, deepening, and expanding Canada's cybersecurity pipeline of talent, including the recruitment, retention of faculties, trainers, and instructors, providing more resources to curriculum development, reskilling and upskilling workers in the cybersecurity workforce. All of these initiatives will be designed and delivered in collaboration with industry partners. So the lead recipient, I'm very happy to say that the National Cybersecurity Consortium was selected as the lead recipient, as announced a couple of months ago. The NCC is a not-for-profit organization working with public and private sectors to lead world-class cybersecurity innovation and talent development. The NCC was founded in 2020 by 5 cybersecurity centers of expertise in universities across Canada, including UNB, Concordia, Toronto Metropolitan, the University of Calgary, and the University of Waterloo. The CSIN program will deliver up to $80 million in federal funding, with an additional $80 million in resources as a cost match coming from industry and academia, for a total minimum investment of approximately $160 million. Since its inception in 2020, the NCC has grown to more than 140 researchers from 35 universities across Canada and has brought to the table over 120 industry and other partners. The NCC aims to grow the network to include members from across Canada in carrying out activities across the 3 pillars of the program. So in terms of what's next on the program timeline, this slide includes activities and efforts that the NCC will aim to accomplish over the next 4 years to help position Canada as a global leader in cybersecurity and expand the industry's ecosystem. The program timeline that you see spans from the setup stage to being operational and starting projects. So we're currently in year 1, where the focus will be on network setup, recruitment, and launching projects that are ready to be launched in year 1 with commitments already made from partners. Years 2 to 4 of the program will be continual engagement with members of the community, including annual conferences and calls for proposals to carry out projects across the 3 pillars of the program. And ultimately, by the end of the program, fostering a strong national cybersecurity ecosystem with lasting partnerships and ongoing activities, positioning Canada as a global leader in cybersecurity. So in terms of getting involved with the network, we encourage organizations interested in learning more and joining the network or partnering in the network to contact the NCC directly, and their contact information is provided here. So I'll end with this. This is my last slide, and I'll just keep this up here. If there's one takeaway, I'd like everyone to take down the contact information of the NCC. And if you'd like to get involved, please get in touch with them. So that will be it, and happy to take any questions either on the CSIN program or the CyberSecure Canada program. Thank you.